Have you ever heard that the Brazilian Zouk community is one of the hardest dance communities to get in and succeed as a beginner? Do you understand why? And do you know what we can do to make it better? Well, let's find out. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Zouk Nerds. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the difficulties and the challenges that new people and beginner dancers faces when they're trying to learn Brazilian Zouk. What are the things that people face when they're trying to succeed in this community, and how we can do better and create a more accessible and welcoming community for everyone who wants to join. So, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sandi, and today we have our beautiful co-host here, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, Alisson. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the accessibility of the dance community. What does that mean? We are talking about how easy it is to get into the dance community, to feel comfortable in the dance community from various different aspects. But the first one that we want to talk about is from a beginner's perspective. Somebody who wants to start dancing. What are the barriers? What are the things that they need to understand, or the hoops that they need to jump through to feel comfortable and feel welcomed? One of the things that I can think about very initially is how each dance is taught and structured in different communities. For example, Brazilian Zouk is a dance that requires time, dedication, requires a lot of passion and commitment. And a lot of the times, teachers don't make that start very easily. So Guy, what do you think is one of the things that we as teachers can do to help with this accessibility for beginners?
Man, this is such a good question. It's such a on question that is on the whole time. Every time we meet, every time we gather with people from other scenes, basically that's what we talk about.
Yeah.
And as the years go by, to answer your question, Alisson, I think how the teacher can help with that, with those first steps. First of all, the syllabus, the curriculum, the way you put together the order in which you teach things is working to try to find what are the essential things for us to teach to someone who is starting Brazilian Zouk, that they can go to the floor and dance, a little bit. Because it's hard for us to expect that the beginner students will very easily go to the floor, go to a social, and dance the whole night. If the beginner student comes to the social and dance for 1 hour, we are winning the game because it's very hard. And one thing that we have been discussing more recently, specifically about the aspect, is realizing that the biggest barrier for someone to go into Brazilian Zouk, especially the leaders, is not the fact that the dance is difficult. There is this thing that people normally talk about. What is the biggest challenge to bring new people in? People think Brazilian Zouk is difficult. And after several conversations and reflections by myself and with other people, and this might be a hot take, is that the Brazilian Zouk technique is not necessarily more difficult than several other dances. I find samba de gafieira way more difficult. Tango is more difficult.
Yep.
Yeah, there are other dances who are more difficult. The thing that I realized is what is difficult in Brazilian Zouk is the social dancing environment for the beginners.
Yep.
Né? Because we don't have a set etiquette in terms of how many songs we dance. Normally, we observe people dancing more than one song, 2, 3 to 4 songs. And because of that, the beginner students think, and I know I'm saying not might think, I'm saying think because that's what we heard from our beginner students over the years, that they cannot handle this many songs.
They feel like they don't have enough.
Exactly. And now learning bachata is being really interesting because it is an easier dance to learn, basically because we don't have full body leads the same way that we have in Brazilian Zouk. The contact is different, and we're traveling sideways most of the time, which tends to be more friendly. And it's a one dance change partners kind of social dance environment. And I literally know 5 steps. And I can observe in my mind me starting to get anxious after I did everything I know. And also observing my mind starting to get more calm because I know the song is gonna end and I know I'll change partners and I'll reset with another person. In Brazilian Zouk, I think that is the biggest barrier, or that's the biggest thing that makes the dance hard to access, especially from a leader's perspective. We might need to create something for the beginners, or having the beginners in mind with more intention, with more focus on that. Having, I don't know, a beginner hour in the social, or socials more designed for the beginners, practicas designed for the beginners, where we specifically ask people to change partners after the first song.
Mm-hmm.
Or stop playing DJ sets and create a playlist on Spotify. Back in the day, it was Windows Media Player. We would create a playlist and then just let it roll where the song ends. And we actually did some tests with that. We did in DC once, and we did here in Taipei. And the simple fact that you don't have the songs connected to each other, like in a DJ set, the fact that the song ends creates an opportunity to change partner.
Yeah.
And then we realized that people were changing partners more often than when we had the DJ sets. There are so many other things about it, because we have discussed this, Alisson, and I have discussed this with other people. So many things that will come up in this episode. But I think that's to respond to your initial question, Alisson. I think this is the main thing that's going on right now.
That is interesting. And it's something that, as you mentioned, we should be doing more with student practicas. So for those of you who are not familiar with student practicas, it's something that we consider the in-between a social, a party, and the class, which is some maybe early hours or before the party, or sometime after the class, or sometime on the weekend where music is being played, preferably one song at a time without blending, where lights are not so dark or maybe completely on, and people can go and practice their movements and ask each other's questions, and the teachers may be there or may not be there, but it's more like a practice session / social, not a full social in that idea of like in social, you don't ask questions, you don't correct each other, you don't practice moves. In socials, you just flow, you just go with it. Yeah. In practicas, it's all about actually doing that, taking it back and doing it again and asking for feedback and sharing feedback. So this is a big thing that I think as a community, we can definitely improve. But the other thing that I'm going to say, and I've said this a million times, every time I do a teacher's training or in multiple episodes here, one of the biggest barriers in Brazilian Zouk, in my opinion, comes because of the teachers. It's the teacher's fault. Now, let me explain. Most of us that decide to dedicate our life to Brazilian Zouk, or part of our life to Brazilian Zouk, we are dance nerds. We are dance addicts. We are passionate about learning more and more and more, and learning every single small little detail about everything. And that's great. But when we're going to teach a class for beginners, we cannot teach how we learned, because we are the dance addicts. We are the Zouk nerds. We need to teach for people who just want to move and have fun and enjoy and have a great time and go home and tell a friend, oh my God, the dance class was so much fun. Now, I ask this in teacher trainings when I'm there. How many of you have heard people giving up on Zouk because they go to 2 or 3 beginners class and they feel like it's going to take them 3 years to learn this dance? Most of the times, because unfortunately, a lot of the teachers, including myself a long time ago, I wanted my students to be masters of weight transfers from the beginner level, masters of connection from the beginner level. But it took me a long time to understand that this is not what makes the community grow. This is not what makes the student feel like they are succeeding at connecting and socializing with other people. Plus, this is not the minimum requirement for social dancing, which is something that we just spoke about in the last episode. So when designing a class, designing your curriculum for the course, think, okay, for level 1, I have 6 weeks or 8 weeks. What do I want my students to achieve? Well, I want them to recognize the timing with the music, with the footwork. Cool. I'm not saying they need to know lateral, simple turn, traveling turn, side basics. No, I'm just saying they need to recognize the stepping with the music. Great. They need to understand how to face each other without kicking each other and how to hold each other's arm and back and shoulders and hands. Great. Looking at those small things. And then as you're teaching them, teach them based on what you want them to achieve, instead of looking at some sort of international list of Brazilian Zouk movements and going, okay, week 1, this one, week 2, this one, week 3, this one. And you're not actually teaching them the essentials or the basics of partner dancing. You're just shoving movement down their throat. And then after 3 months, of course, they still cannot social dance because they haven't learned how to hold each other. They haven't learned how to listen to the music or build a dance nice and slowly. And something that maybe I think 2 years ago, I was going to say recent, but recent for us is with 20 years of this, we implemented in our classes after the pandemic weeks or classes in the course that were talking about non-movement or non-technical things. For example, how to ask people to social dance, how to end a social dance, and things that are like community-based or social interaction-based that we were approaching during the pandemic because there were limitations on how many movements we can do online. So then we thought, why don't we include all of those other things into our actual courses? So we have weeks that we're talking about comfort. How does comfort feel? And we don't wait until like you're a Zouk dancer for 3 years that you can attend a weekender in comfort. It should also already be in your beginner's level. It should also already be in your intermediate level. So curriculum and how we structure is something that really can make the dance scene more accessible or less accessible. As to mention what Gui said about bachata, I experienced this years ago in Melbourne as well, because I was teaching in the biggest salsa school there. And the owner and the salsa teacher came to me and said, hey, Alisson, can I give you like my perspective of why Brazilian Zouk community doesn't grow? And I said, yes, please, of course. I would love to hear and I would love to get some help. And he said that. He said, go to a salsa class and go to a bachata class and see how happy people are from start to the end and how much technique they actually learn. I'm not saying that they're teaching less technique. What he was saying was that they were prioritizing more the vibe, the atmosphere, the energy of how you interact with each other versus how to do your grounding, your projection, and the torsion in something like beginners 1 and beginners 2. They were focusing on let's get moving, let's get socializing, let's have fun, let's high five, hip bump, and all of those things. So that's another side of a barrier that I believe can be easily removed with the right intention and focus on how you look at your curriculum and how you're teaching your classes.
And I remember my father. My father moved to Brasilia many years ago. Now he's back in Rio, but for many years he lived in Brasilia. And I insisted so much that he looked up dancing. And he started taking dancing lessons. And after 1 month, he gave up because every class, it was a lot of patterns. And he was a beginner. And he was the beginner class. And he couldn't keep up. And each new class was frustration after frustration after frustration, you know? So I have an example in my family and my younger brother as well. So I have 2 examples in my family of people that try to learn how to dance and Brazilian schools, right? So they're learning all the different styles at the same time. Too much information. My brother is young, but my father is, at the time, he was like a 50-year-old man, you know? So most people that come to the dance scene, Brazilian Zouk scene, are people that are learning how to move their bodies as an adult. And I think we severely underestimate how much time it takes for the body to incorporate that movement. So we think that we talked about the thing twice and it's good to go. You know, we just talk about this thing so many times. I think Brazilian Zouk teachers are really scared of repetition. And they're scared of repetition because they're scared that students is gonna get bored. And that's where the teaching skill kicks in. Guys, Jaime Arocha, he is, and at the time was a master of masking, talking about technique, but dressing up that thing as something else.
Yeah.
You know, really good at that. And for example, Jessica Landon, she's really good at that. Really good. She talks about technique, but she doesn't say a word of technicality.
Yeah.
Sexy turtle, happy armpits, lick the ice cream. I love my left, I love my right. All these things. She's talking technique, but everybody's smiling. Everybody's engaged. We are smiling, you know.
And they are understanding, which is the most important. You can talk about the muscle group. It just kind of like,
Breathe, guys, breathe.
It gives me the things when teachers are going into like body anatomy, and I'm like, guys, let's not go into body anatomy. We're here to learn how to dance, not to become masters of body anatomy. Yes, in a private lesson, that would be maybe helpful. Yes, in a very focused workshop about back extensions and whatever, that will be maybe important. But not in a beginner class where we're trying to do a basic step viradinha.
Exactly. One of the rules of presentation, Master, is know your audience. Is one of the first things, you know, and then talking about beginners. You're talking to someone who is almost not there. That's what I have in mind. This person is here, but they're almost not here. They are on the verge of giving up, especially guys, especially them. They're on the verge of giving up. So I am on the verge of losing this person. What are the things that I can do and how can I shape the way I say things in order to translate this thing that is complex into something simple? And that's the mastery of teaching. You translate complex concepts into something that is understandable. And we talk about movements, and we talk about movement with somebody else. There is connection, there is interaction. So talking about that interaction, you know. And Brazilian Zouk, like other Brazilian dances, and like tango as well, has one of the most magical features that I don't think people realize. If you shift weight on the spot comfortably, you are already dancing. And that's the thing that can bring so much more calm. And one thing that for example, I implemented in Brazilian Zouk bootcamp, shift your weight to the downbeat on the spot and you are already dancing. And it's one of the fundamentals. You have basic on the spot, linear basic, lateral, and the shift your weight to the downbeat. That's one of the basics. So people can slow down, they can reset, and all of these things that maybe allow someone who is coming into the dance to feel like that they are dancing quicker because the teacher said, doing this nothing is already dancing because you're moving your body to a rhythm,
Yeah.
And this, we're talking about the teaching aspect of things, like how we present the contents. Before we talked about the social dancing aspect of things, because it might have been, Alisson, the same person that told the current organizer there in Melbourne, who I was talking to, their diagnosis of why Zouk doesn't grow as fast as we would like it to. And this person pinned down to really the social dancing environment. It's not friendly for beginners. And the fact that there were times in which the person loves the class, they come to the class and they really love the class. But when the social starts right after, they go home and they say, I love the class, but the social dancing is hard for me. And then I think we can start talking about the aspect of music, the aspect of the music selection, where very often the music of the social is disconnected from the music we play in class.
Yeah.
For example, if you are the person that does everything, you are the person that does everything in your scene. So you are the person who teaches and facilitates the practica and plays at the social, you are this. And I know you exist out there. So many. If you use in your class slower music with a clear beat, use the same music across the board so the student can identify. And then comes these things, but the person will get bored. But that's class music. That's not social dance music. I don't care anymore. Really don't care anymore. If people start complaining, but this is the song we play in class, I say, exactly, with a smile, because that's exactly the point. So it identifies me to this day. When a song that I used to play in class a lot start playing, I remember the voice of my teacher saying, 7:30, let's go. When the music started playing, the warm-up, 7:30, let's go, 8:30, here we go. I still remember, while at the same time having the fond memories of it and the comfort that I know this song. I can handle this song.
Yes.
Ne?
So yeah, so many times we talk about like trying to remove things that make life harder for the student at the beginning. So there is already a lot of anxiety and stress just being at a social or being at a practica, because now the student went from being guided to free. Okay, so when the student comes to class, they're being guided every step of the way. When do I change partners? When the teacher says so. When do I dance? When the teacher says so. When do I ask questions? When the teacher says so. Okay, now practice, free. And the student doesn't know what to do. And then you play music that is not easy for them to dance. That's making it even harder. So if you at least do something with the music, okay, the music is going to be very, very similar to the ones we play in class. Maybe at least for the first hour. I'm not saying don't play, something more complex or something more challenging and creative, but save that maybe if the practice is 2 hours, say, hello guys, so now we're going to start a practica for the first hour. We're going to play some music, which is going to make things easier for you to practice. And then in the second hour, we're going to play some music that you can be more creative, and it's going to challenge you a little bit, but I encourage you to stay back and still try it. And you give enough for both.
And it was very common there, Alisson, back in the day. You said the social starts at 9. At 8:45, all the beginner students were lined up waiting to enter.
Yeah.
Because they knew that the first hour, hour and a half was their time.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, for the longest time, and still to this day, the early moments of the social are still my favorite time. You're probably going to see me in the first set.
Yeah.
I'll be there because I like that first, because it's a pressure-free moment for the DJs as well, because it's more empty, the room. So they don't go too hard. And I think it's more like exactly what Alisson is saying. We have a dedicated time, like it has been for the longest time. that we are thinking about, I'm going to play clear beats. I'm going to play a very easy speed, chill speed. And I'm going to make the transitions easy to notice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to, or not have them at all. And to the aspect of dancing more than one song, just to think about it, I feel like this thing grow inside of me. What is the biggest complaint? And this always happens in Zouk. Oh, but then if I don't dance too many songs, I don't find the flow. I cannot connect. I cannot blah, 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 blah. And I say to everyone, all things are trained. All things are trainable. All things you can practice.
Yeah.
How come for decades we're able to find flow in one dance, in two dances? Why now we need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as a default? So I love the long dances. I've done them so much. However, from the perspective of community growth, bringing new people in, we need to make the energy in the room circulate a little bit more. And that was another thing that this person told our friend in Melbourne. He said, the energy doesn't circulate in a Brazilian Zouk social.
I agree.
The energy stays stuck. The energy gets stuck in these little pools of people who are dancing while there's all these people around who are in stillness for a long time. So even though we say this person will also dance for a long time, they are waiting for a long time. And that gets the energy flat. One thing that I noticed is when the energy flows in the social a little bit more, the vibe is different. Very, very different. When you have a scene that is big enough, you don't feel that very much because there's enough people to have a good balance of long dances, short dances. There's a good balance of that. When your scene has 15, 20 people and you have, let's say, 12 people having a long dance, you have these other 3, 4 people who are sitting there for a long time. And it's not a problem as well to dance with the same person more than once during the same social. In Brazil, I think we create this unspoken rule that if we dance with one person that social, we don't dance with that person again in that same social. I have already danced with them. So that's all these unspoken rules because the etiquette, the structure, it is forming, it is taking shape. However, it is taking shape in a way that I don't think welcomes the beginners. And here we are talking about specifically the beginners.
Yeah.
So for us to make something that welcomes the beginners, we need to be mindful about them. I think if you are an organizer, a teacher, at all times, and it might be more work because when you play at a social or a practica, you just hit play set list from a DJ, and that's the end of your troubles with music. If you are catering your event, your social, your practica for a beginner, you need to be more mindful about that. You might need to put together a playlist. You might need to check with the teacher, what are the songs you're using in class? Or what is the style of music you're using in class? Bring it. There is more work involved for sure. But I think the results are quite magical. In our boot camp here in Taipei, there was all the spiel to ask people to change the partner after one song. Glenn prepared a playlist where the song was over, start a new song. Guys, almost all leaders stayed for the practica. This never happens. Never happens. It was a beginner class. All they knew how to do was back and forth basic to the sides, on the spots to the downbeats, viradinha lateral, and turn. That was all. And all of them stayed. You know what I mean? I think this is, if we think about beginners, I think we need to start going more into this direction.
Yeah, that's right. And another one that we try to encourage within our schools and the communities that we help is the interchange of experiences between the people who have been dancing for longer. I'm not just saying the teachers and the assistants and the advanced dancers, but trying to find ways that maybe the level 2 can dance with the level 1. So one way that we did back in Perth in Australia was to have a practica in between classes, and we do that at District Zouk as well in DC, which allows the first class and the second class to have a little moment to socialize and to get to know each other. So then when they go to the practica, they're not two separate groups, but they're like, hey, I know, yeah, you're from level 1, you're from level 2. But also do ask the level 2s and the level 3s and people who have been dancing longer to be very, very consciously looking for these new people and welcoming them. I'm not saying go there and dance with every single one of them, but go and have a chat. Maybe you're getting some water, you see a new face and go like, hey, are you new here? Oh, welcome. Oh, wow. Yes, I started dancing 6 months ago. It's a little scary, isn't it? But look, if you need anything, let me know. I'm here. If you have any questions about anything, maybe I can help you. And you build that camaraderie, that friendship of knowing that when you go to a dance class or when you go to the dance school, you're not alone. You have a whole family, you have a whole tribe that is there for you, not just the teachers. Because like I said before, a lot of the times the student and the teacher's relationship is so like the commander and the people. And when the commander is not there, the people are lost. But if the people actually learn how to be together and how to help each other, if the teacher is in the room or not in the room, it doesn't matter. You know, if the music stops, nobody's going to freak out. Somebody's just going to go there and fix it and play something. So removing that barrier between like only the teacher does things, encouraging other people to help each other, to welcome each other, to talk to each other, even to connect with each other outside of the dance school. I think that's really helpful. And every time that we put an effort into this, we've seen huge shift in our communities.
And if we think that sometimes the barrier that people who are more experienced have or experience to dance with people who are less experienced, the people who are just coming in, is basically how comfortable the dance feels. Yeah, and it's very natural for any dancer, once they get a better grip over the dance, to want to experience the dance with people who have similar levels of experience. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's actually very healthy. It's good and it's natural for you to find your tribe within the tribe and hang out with them, dance with them. This exchange, I think, becomes more easy to do when we have these other factors in place. So, for example, if you have one song and then you change partners after that one song, it's very, very easy on the body. It's very chill for you to dance with somebody who is less experienced than you, and not letting these thoughts that normally come of worry of dancing with somebody that is then more beginner. Seeing everything as a cohesive system of practices, what is being taught in class and how, in what order, what kind of music we are playing. Is that same music being applied to the social? Are the socials being done or practicas being done in a way that allows for the people to change partners more often? Easy music. So all of this combined, you start to create an overall environment that I think can make this exchange of experiences a lot easier to do. Because in the current way that things are happening, a person who is more experienced doesn't dance with a person who is less experienced for the same reason the person who is less experienced doesn't dance at all. Too many songs, the song is too difficult, I cannot understand, therefore they will not lead or follow in this or that way. The same difficulties are there, just from different perspectives. Therefore, I think Brazilian Zouk has a lot of room to implement policies or a way to operate who is geared towards bringing the beginners to the social, bringing the beginners to have an easier time at the social. Because I don't think the scene is designed this way. It's maybe the only dance that I know that the beginner classes are way harder to feel than more advanced classes. It's very unique that we have intermediate, more advanced classes fitting up like this, and the beginner classes is a struggle. While the other dances that I've been a part of, their beginner classes are packed, and we have the harder time with the more advanced classes. So we are doing something really good over here in this middle chunk. we'll do something well here that is keeping people interested, that's keeping people hungry for more, to learn more. But there is something that we're not doing well in this first section here, versus the other dances might be the reverse. They're doing something really well here, but something not really well here. Could we do well on both ends? I think we very much could. It just requires focused effort on this. It requires for us to think more systematically, which I don't think we think systematically yet for the beginners.
And another thing about what you're saying is that I find that in Brazilian Zouk, most of the community leaders and teachers are giving more focus, love, attention, and support to the intermediates and above instead of to the beginners. They're putting more effort. They're creating more levels, creating more socials, creating more things for this 25% of the community, right? Oh, but maybe your community is mostly intermediate and advanced people. Well, then that's a fault on the focus to the beginners. To grow a community, you need a funnel, right? You need that funnel. And the biggest part of that funnel needs to be the beginners. Any community that has more intermediate and advanced than beginners is going to die, or is going to struggle, or is stagnant, because you don't have that process of people growing into the bottom of the funnel, top of the pyramid. So, like for me, a big shift that I did many years ago was to give all love and attention and support as much as possible to that beginner phase, because then we can have a healthy intermediate level in the community. We can have a healthy advanced level in the community. And we can even get that 1 or 2% of the people who will be interested to maybe start assisting or DJing or organizing parties. Like, we need to grow that beginner pool in order for everything else to grow. So when you're focusing and struggling to bring the intermediates back to class, the advanced back to classes, a lot of teachers come to us and say, oh, the people who've been dancing for about a year or two, they don't want to come to class anymore. And it's so hard to get them to sign up for a course. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to be running after people who don't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I can spend 10 minutes of my day trying to convince an intermediate or advanced dancer to come to class, or I can spend 10 minutes of my day talking to beginners and recruiting them and making sure that they feel welcome and that they are happy in the community and that they will continue being happy. So instead of spending days and hours trying to convince the ones to come back, I'm going to spend my days and hours trying to find new ones to bring in. A good analogy that a friend of mine gave to me was that whenever he's organizing his community or whatever decisions he's making in his community, he's trying to think, I want to make sure that I'm always trying to get fresh, new oranges, not the ones that have already been squeezed and all the juice is gone. And that's the analogy for the intermediate or advanced people who don't want to do classes anymore. Maybe the juice is gone. Go for the fresh oranges. The fresh oranges will give you the most juice for the longest time. And maybe they're not going to get squeezed out the whole time because they're going to know how to manage their energy. But the people who already ran out of juice, I'm here. If you come to me, I will give you my full heart and I'll give you my full attention. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to run after you. I'm going to run after the new people, the beginners, the ones who are hungry and wanting to be here. I don't know. It's just how I like to operate. I like to run after what I want in life, and I like to operate with people who are running for what they want in life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I think about some of the main sources of conflicts in the dance scenes, is exactly that, where people come in, joining as facilitators, aiming the already squeezed oranges.
Yeah.
Like wanting the cake who is already there. Very few people come in with like, let me bring new people in. So that's sometimes not the focus. Some people want to come in to get a piece of what is already built, and that generates conflict. Of course it will, because if you're coming from a scarcity mindset that we have so little, and more people want a bite of that little that we have, then of course conflict will come. In theory, then, if someone come in with the focus on bringing new people in, amazing, and we could use more of that. And again, repeating that, not being afraid of repeating myself. I know it's not easy. It's actually harder. It's actually harder. You put together something for people that already exist. They know what Brazilian Zouk is, who the teachers are. They know the things. So it's easier to put the material together and attract. The marketing is easier. But you are bringing new people in. People don't know what Brazilian Zouk is. People don't know what the dance that you are wanting to facilitate is. So you need to show the dance first and then say what this dance is about next. And then maybe this person will come in for maybe a trial class, and maybe they will stay or not. So it can be more frustrating in the end. But I think that if we do that consistently and we make that a habit, an ongoing practice, it's just going to be part of the system. Like in DC, the Monday is dedicated to that. And it has been dedicated for that for 10 years now. So it's just part of the system. So it's not something that is so worrying as much. There's still the worry that sometimes we have 3 people, sometimes we have 18, sometimes we have 22, and then sometimes we have 2 again. Very volatile, but there is always something going on. This other barrier too that sometimes I find in scenes, there's not a consistent stream that new people can go in. They need to wait until 2 months for the new level 1 class to open, so then they can join. And I know that's not possible everywhere. I know that's actually hard for you to have every month or every week a way for people to take their first steps. So like trying to implement that, I think would be another barrier, the barrier of availability, how available the dance is for someone to start learning right away if they want,
Yeah, like a weekly intro class.
Yeah.
Every week, that's an intro class at 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. before the regular classes, or a monthly intro bootcamp that can get people jumped into the level 1 or level 2 or something like that. Yeah, we need to always continuously having open doors for anybody who wants to join at any time and give them the love and the attention that they deserve, because that's the way to keep the community alive and growing.
I think if the community grows enough, this process sort of automates itself. People just learn about it and people come in and you don't even know how they found out about you. It just start happening. I think it might be like an effort that you make in the beginning until your community gets like
Sustainable.
big enough. Yeah. Sustainable. And then is a process maybe of rolling with it. You just roll with it. So there's a big push and then inertia right after.
Yeah, but don't forget where it came from. The beginner still needs to be a main idea and focus. Yes, you're going to have to give your intermediates and advanced the attention, but don't forget where you came from, because when you grow and the community is sustainable and you're like, oh, I can chill now, and then you just give your attention to intermediate advanced only, and then you see that the beginner level is dying. No. So those are maybe some good actionable points that we shared with you guys. Hopefully this will be helpful for your community, whether you are a student or a community leader or a teacher. Share with each other, and we wish you all the best with your community. And I hope that your community will continue growing, because we just love this dance so much, and the community as a whole so much, not just Brazilian Zouk. So thank you so much for being here for another episode of Zouk Nerds. Please connect with us in our YouTube and Instagram as well for some shorter versions of our podcast. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Beijos, beijos, abraços, and ciao.
Bye, everyone.